Good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. It's just about 9 o'clock, and we are getting started again with the FY27 budget. And this morning, we have the Ethics Commission with us, some folks from the Ethics Commission, and I think somebody from the Agency of Administration as well. So Ethics Commission and friends today. So welcome to all of you. We will introduce ourselves because I don't believe you've come to our committee before, Paul. And then we'll have you introduce yourself and colleagues, and then we'll talk about your requests.
Thanks so much.
So Dave.
Good morning, Paul. I'm Dave Iacovoni from Morrisville. I represent the Lamoille, Washington district. Good morning.
Good morning and welcome. John Kosenska from Burke, and I represent the Essex Caledonia district, 10 towns.
Good morning.
Mike Nigro, I represent Bennington and Pelham. I'm Stevens from Waterbury, representing the Washington Chittenden district.
Good morning. We met briefly last week.
Marty Feltus from Linden. I represent Linden, Sutton, Sheffield, Wheelock, and Newark.
Good morning.
And I'm Robin Shy from Middlebury.
Good morning.
Sid Wimley from Burlington.
William Rush, I represent Highgate, Franklin, Berkshire, Richford.
Good morning.
Morning, Mike Nowicki, Linden 4 District, Putney Hubbardston.
Good morning. I met you briefly with Will Stevens last week.
Oh, great. And Trevor Squirrel, I think, is at another meeting from Jericho and Underhill next to Wayne. And then on the other side of the mic is Lynn Dickinson from St. Albans. So we kind of covered the state here. Yeah. So if you all would introduce yourselves, that would be great.
I guess I'll start. My name is Paul Earlbaum. I serve as the chair of the Vermont State Ethics Commission. Unless you want to hear it, I'll skip my autobiography.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Will and
Brenda.
Brenda?
Brenda. Go ahead, Will.
Fine print there.
Good morning, everyone. Greetings from snowy, sunny Shoreham, Vermont. My name is Will Stevens. I am one of 5 ethics commissioners. I was appointed by the Senate Committee on Committees a little over a year ago.
Welcome.
Hi, I am Brenda Berry, and I work for the Agency of Administration Financial Services Division. I'm a financial manager, and the Ethics Commission is one of my clients.
Great. Okay, thank you. So we have till about 9:30, just so you know what the schedule is, and we'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. And I'll keep my comments brief and leave plenty of time for questions. And really just really big thanks to this committee for inviting me to address the budget and the status of the Vermont Ethics Commission. I have, and you should have, our budget book. I submitted a written statement. Hopefully you'll have that. And my written statement details our budget numbers and our request for additional funds. The Ethics Commission in Vermont has existed since 2018. And every year our budget has been really quite, relatively tiny in relation to the state budget. But also our staff is quite tiny. We have 1 half-time executive director and 1 half-time administrative assistant. And frankly, there's much more work to be done than these 2 half-time people can do. In 2024, this legislature passed a bill that was largely authored by the Ethics Commission. The bill, which became Act 171, included a statewide municipal ethics code and assigned the Ethics Commission to the task of training municipalities and advising municipalities when they had questions regarding this new municipal code. And Act 171 also included a commission investigatory powers, really might be baby teeth, but the first teeth granted to the Ethics Commission, and also hearing powers for the Ethics Commission regarding all 3 branches of government. Basically, this was the Commission's wish list. There's almost everything we asked for, with one big exception: funding to implement the new mandates. In 2024, we were told the budget was just too tight, but several legislators said to us, surely next year. In his 2024 signing statement, Governor Scott said he allowed Act 171 to become law without his signature because, while he liked the substance of the law, he really did not like those unfunded mandates. our request is modest, really, but TJ Jones, who I don't think you've had testify, but he's a national governmental ethics expert. He said, really, to fulfill our mandate, we need a minimum of 4.5 staff, but we're asking for 2 attorneys. So after we were told in 2024, surely next year in 2025, we dutifully came before the legislature. And again, we asked, please, could you provide us with staffing necessary to fulfill the mandates you placed on us last year? And we were told the budget was just too tight. Come back next year, surely next year. So all of a sudden it's next year again. Probably with a tighter budget, but here I am, here we are. Now, once again, we're asking the legislature whether it wishes to fund the mandates it has placed upon the Ethics Commission. I should backtrack a bit to May of last year, about 10 months ago? Because at the beginning of 2025, the Ethics Commission mandate to advise municipalities clicked in, and we got a flood of requests, and we did our best. Our little staff did its best, and we commissioners, we volunteer commissioners, did our best to respond adequately to these requests. On May 7th, we posted on our homepage saying we can no longer provide municipal advisory and complaint services because we just don't have the staff. We've continued to respond to requests for state advice, but municipal advice, again, the flood was just overwhelming. We just could not take it. So unfortunately, we're not fulfilling that mandate. And because we didn't have staffing last year, the legislature through H1, House Bill 1, pushed our investigatory and hearing powers to September 1st, 2027. Hopefully this year we'll get a couple of attorneys so we can fulfill that mandate on September 1st, 2027, get ourselves ready for that. I don't know if you've looked at other ethics commissions around the country, but most ethics commissions around the country are well-staffed and effective. Just one little example. Rhode Island has a little less than double Vermont's population. They have 12 staff members on their ethics commission. Again, we have 2 half-time people. We just can't do what we've been told to do. And I suspect most Vermonters would like a robust, independent state ethics commission. And I hope this committee and the legislature agrees. We urge this committee and the legislature to appropriate funds for 2 attorney positions for the Ethics Commission. And I'm going to stop there and just invite any questions. I'll do my best to answer, but maybe Will and Brenda on screen can do better than I can. But any questions?
And I wonder if Will or Brenda would like to make any comments, and then I'm sure we have some questions. I know I have a couple of questions, but if you'd like to say anything now, you're welcome to.
Well, excuse me, I'm fighting a cold here, so I'll jump in on the non-fiscal aspect here very briefly. We have asked the governor to include our request to fund these staff positions prior to the legislative session, and we did not get it, which is why we're here today. I just want to also mention that we see our role on the Ethics Commission as being partners with the legislature and the executive branch and the judiciary branch in good governance. And but without adequate staffing and support, we can't be the partner that we think that the public would want us to be for that mission. Nationally, some ethics commissions have been around for 50 or more years. Some of them are actually constitutionally embedded, so that, ethics is kind of a constitutional standing, as it were. And we, as you may know, we're late to the game. We adopted ours in 2018 ish. And finally, I just want to say that, and TJ brought this up before the House GovOps committee last week, that basically the kind of natural progression or normal trajectory of ethics commissions involves education, advice, and then enforcement or investigatory powers. And we are kind of between the education and advice portions of those three pieces of our work. And we can't go, as Paul has said, with inadequate staffing, we can't really deliver on the advice end, and it's getting to the point where we're challenged to, deliver on the education end to all the municipalities and state officials that statutorily we're required to do. So that's it for me. I'm, again, like Paul, happy to answer questions, but thank you.
Thank you. Brenda, do you have anything you want to add?
I'll just speak to the fiscal, but the governor's recommended budget is a 12% increase, about 26,000.
Yeah.
About 16,000 of that is fringe benefits, health insurance, which, they have absolutely no control over. So it's a
Right.
very modest budget.
Right. So it's just the standard sort of increase for what? Nothing new. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. So I know Tom has a question and we'll keep track. Go ahead, Tom.
So, first of all, the halftime positions receive benefits.
Yes.
And you're requesting, again, I don't want to say fully staff, but to staff this up at a higher level. Will these positions, if funded, will they be sufficient for just the near future? Or do you think that this is just something that in 2 years we may find that it's unnecessary or it's more necessary? It's a tough position. I mean, I think my experience following the creation of funding, the recreation, the reshifting of what an ethics commission in Vermont can be or should be, based on the people who are being. I mean, we're determining what we think should be looked at as an ethics commission. It's never going to be fully independent as long as we draw the line. So is 2 people enough for what you've envisioned going forward here?
I'll do my best to answer. I didn't bring my crystal ball along, but I'll do my best. I do think that 2 attorney positions will see us through the near future. And from there, I think we just have to see what happens, to see how many complaints we get, how much training we're able to do, how many municipal requests we get. Again, our national ethics, governmental ethics expert, Thomas Jones, TJ Jones, has said, really, the Vermont Ethics Commission needs a minimum of 4.5 people. With these 2 positions, we'll have a total of 3 full-time equivalents. We're making a modest request so that we can just see how that works, if that is sufficient. And I can't predict the future. We might need 4.5 people in the not too distant future. But for the time being, what a relief it would be to get 2 attorneys on board.
And just to follow up, if I could, you mentioned the Rhode Island
I did.
Commission, and in a one-dimensional way, what little I know about Rhode Island is that they're probably very busy down there with an ethics commission. They've had a lot of issues. But
True enough.
what is the difference between not what's going on? What is the difference between the legislation that created their and the actual actions of their ethics commission versus what's in our statute and what was created for us?
You know, I don't have that research lodged in my head, but I believe that Rhode Island, back in the Watergate days, post-Watergate days, I believe that they are one of the few states that passed a constitutional amendment creating an ethics commission, requiring an ethics commission. I'd have to double check.
I think I'm just curious. Again, we created an ethics commission shaped through ideas and debate and compromise that's come out to something that is, at least financially, it's not supported, so it's insufficient in your opinion. And there are others that would say, well, we don't really want a strong ethics commission, so we won't fund it.
Understood.
So I just want to make sure we all understand that that's the question that we have here is, do we really want an ethics commission? And the way to begin to answer that would be funding it to our value that you're asking for.
Yes, if I could just expand on that a little bit to say that because we have so little staff and are able to do so little, a great many people who should know that the Ethics Commission exists do not know that the Ethics Commission exists. And Representative Stevens, I think you might have been the representative we asked, do you think anybody would notice if the Ethics Commission disappeared? And were you the person who said, probably not until there were headlines showing the gravesite and the tombstone?
It could have been me.
That sounds like Tom. Okay, I'm gonna move us along.
Skip, I'm just curious.
Yes.
What kinds of things are you not able to pursue?
Right now, we have drawn the line at, we can't deal with the many, many, many requests we've gotten from towns and cities asking for interpretation of portions of the new municipal ethics code. Is it okay for, a select board member to sell a piece of his or her property to the town? Just, is that allowable? Is it kosher? Just being able to, and then, we ask for more information. There's some back and forth. It's never just a yes or no, of course. It's at this point, it's municipal complaints where we've drawn the line, and we are still accepting complaints and requests for guidance from state public servants, all 8,000 and some.
And so I'm wondering, Paul, you said it was like May 7th, you were forced to close. Did you keep track of how many municipal complaints you got from when the time the doors crashed open to when you had to close?
I did. We got 62 municipal requests for guidance, 50 municipal complaint inquiries, and I wasn't sure this number, but somewhere around 28 municipal complaints that were filed through us. At that time, just by way of comparison, for all of 2025, and by the way, all those municipal figures I gave, those numbers dropped off sharply as of May 7th.
Right. I know, I just wondered up to
Right.
that. So that's in, 4 months and a week. That was what you got.
And just by way of guidance for all of 2025, we got 17 state requests for guidance,
State requests. When you say state requests, what is that mean?
not municipal. So
That would include the legislature or administration, the executive branch, or?
the three branches of government.
All,
Government, yes,
okay. So way more municipal than,
way more.
okay. Say Wayne, Lynn, oh no, John was first. You had a question?
Yes.
Yes, John, Wayne, Lynn.
Thanks so much. So part of your mission is to provide training here as well. Has that been?
Not nearly as robust a program as we had hoped, because we don't have the staff to actually go in person. What we've done as a minimal measure is there is an online training for municipal officers, as well as an online training for state public servants. We've done a very few in-person trainings, not nearly enough.
Just kind of self-training information you're providing at this point, at
It's
least.
the best we can do at this point. And there's a requirement that state public servants and municipal officers rather attend
Just, yeah.
at least this minimal training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The example you gave, about someone wanting to transfer property to the town or whatever. That sounds like a question for the town's attorney. So my question is, are the towns going to try to shuffle off their attorney work to you?
It's a good question, and it might be that because the Vermont State Ethics Commission is the state expert on the municipal and state ethics codes, I think it'd be wise for that town's attorney to contact us for our interpretation if there's any lack of clarity in the statutory language. If I could just bounce off of your question, just a little bit of a segue, just to say, because the Vermont State Ethics Commission is now unavailable to municipalities for these bits of guidance and advice, through the grapevine, I'm understanding that the towns and cities are turning to the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, a wonderful and reputable organization, no complaints. But if I may, they have a conflict of interest in giving this sort of advice. They also serve as insurers to towns and cities. There is value in having a state ethics commission that can give independent, nonpartisan, unbiased, not economically involved advice, in contradistinction to the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, however wonderful they may be.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to see Will.
Or legislators.
Yes.
I just want to say that I remember when that bill passed and it was highly controversial. And it was very prescriptive as to what municipalities had to do.
Yes.
And there was a lot of discussion at the time about the fact that many of our communities were not really equipped to do all this stuff.
Understood.
I'm just wondering if, like so many things that we have come in here, something that happened 4, 5, 10, 12 years ago is suddenly now showing the logical consequence of what happens to a group like yours. Municipal conflicts of interest probably occur in every community in the state.
Understood.
People are related to each other. People go and have expertise in something and they sit on the select board or the planning commission and they give valuable information in the discussions because they have been there, done that. They have that lived experience.
Yes.
And yet that should not be considered a conflict of interest.
I agree.
So the question becomes, somebody's got a beef with someone, they're going to complain. They can complain to you, they'll complain to you. They'll complain to the town attorney they see in the supermarket.
Mhm.
They'll complain to everybody else they know. I mean, the same thing happens with our schools. We have teachers who sit on our school boards whose wife or to themselves are included in the bargaining unit. Have we created something that's a monster here?
If I might clarify one little bit, that might at least partially answer the question. The Vermont State Ethics Commission is not empowered, and there's no prospect of it being empowered to investigate complaints within cities and towns. That is left up to cities and towns to do. Complaints about a city or town might be filed through or with the Ethics Commission, but we simply relay that to each town's ethics liaison. And it's really up to each town now to have an investigative protocol, which is a new demand, a new protocol required by state statute. The town is required to post its complaint procedures. If you have a complaint against that select board member, here's how you do it. But it's investigated by the town or the city, not by the state.
So with all these municipal complaints, requests 62, 12, whatever, that education and that advice part that you are supposed to be providing, you're saying, am I hearing correctly, that you are unable to provide that to those ethics coordinators or whatever it is supposed to be? Is that a concern?
That is a big concern. Yes, we'd love to be. Enforcement should, of course, be the very last thing that an ethics commission does. We would really love to just be training, educating the public, the municipalities, the municipal officials. We are just not able to do that. So, yes, it creates problems.
And there's a conflict for VLCT to do it.
In my humble opinion, yes.
Another conflict. Thank you.
Sure, I hope I answered your questions thoroughly.
Yeah.
Mike?
Thank you for coming in. I don't have a question. I do want to make the statement, though, that I hope our committee can seriously consider this. I believe it's important for us and as a state to say that ethics matters to us. And, you know, we talk about budgets being value statements. And I think this is an area where we can show how much we value this. And I don't know to what level we could or should increase this, but I feel like it's clear that they need some more resources because of what we put on them. So I hope we can seriously consider this request and take up some further discussion beyond just this testimony.
Do you have any questions for these guys either, or just to say?
I don't, I just want to
Okay, all right,
make that statement.
great. Any other questions for folks here?
If I may,
Yes, please, Will.
thank you. Just two things I wanted to follow up on only because I didn't hear them mentioned. Around to the town attorney question, one of the things that happens is that, as Representative Dickinson mentioned, people sometimes just don't know where to turn to get advice, and this is more than an HR issue. You know, there are a lot of pieces involved, and so they're not sure they're going to get the right answer or the answer that might be as unbiased as they would hope for from a municipal official. This is where a state ethics board can operate. We treat things confidentially that way. So somebody can come to us from a place of trust to get good information. Secondly, to Representative Stevens' question about sufficient staffing and so forth, there is a virtuous cycle here that involves education and advice. And that, you know, the more outreach the Ethics Commission does, the more likely it is they're going to hear complaints or questions or requests for services. And so in terms of sufficient staffing, yes, short term, we think that the two positions will get us to where we want to be, which is a better place. Whether or not it'll last, or it kind of depends on the numbers. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Will. Okay, well, we really appreciate you coming in today and talking to us. It's helpful to hear what's happening. And you've already met with House Government Operations. It sounds like you met with them last week.
We have.
So we will be continuing the conversation. And we will get back to you if there are questions.
Thank you so much for your time, everybody. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, it's one beauty pageant. Thank you. It's Tuesday. I'll go to that at break.
The speaker really wants you to keep this job.
Yes. Okay, I think we've got one more and then we're gonna take a break. We have Christina and JB Ledoux. Yes, hi. Step right up to the table, please. Have you been in our committee before? I know Christina's been here, but I'm not sure.
Last year,
Yeah, I was more of an observer last year because I had just really started in the role,
All
so.
right, well, welcome, and we'll just introduce ourselves since it's been a year and you haven't really been here in person, so.
wonderful.
Great.
Good morning. I'm Dave Iacovoni from Morrisville. I represent the Lamoille, Washington district. Greetings.
Good morning, good to see you. John Kosenska from Burke and represent the Essex Caledonia District, 10 towns.
I'm Stephen from Waterbury. I'm representing the Washington Chittenden district.
Caledonia, 5 towns in the Northeast Kingdom.
Robin Shy from Middlebury.
Tiff Lunley from Burlington.
Wayne Rush, Highgate, Franklin, Berkshire, and Richford.
Good morning. Mike Norwood from the Wyndham 4 District, Putney and Dummerston.
Hi, I'm Lynn Dickinson and I represent St. Albans Town.
And so if you two will introduce yourselves and then we can take it away.
Hey, I'm Christina Sweet. I'm the Director of Regulatory Compliance at the Vermont Community Broadband Board in the Department of Public Service.
JB Ledoux, I'm a financial manager working for PSD and BCBB, both.
Okay. So I think we have your budget either on the screen or in paper. So if you want to tell us about it.
Did I bring up just for our reference?
Yeah, probably.
Well, to screen share and pull it up.
Okay.
So, you know, we have till about 10 o'clock.
Great. I think we will be fairly efficient.
Great.
Okay. I'll just pull this up for our reference since you have the printed copies. My computer's freezing a little bit. I think it's adjusting to the weather. Great. Well, thanks everyone for having us here today. We're really excited to talk about our progress at the Vermont Community Broadband Board since Act 71 established the board in 2021. At that point, we had identified over 20% of Vermont's addresses as unserved or underserved by broadband access. And now we are at a point where we can say that there are less than 1% of our addresses in Vermont that are really left without a funding commitment to provide broadband access if they don't already have broadband access. So we've made tremendous progress. Over the past year, we've also responded to some major federal shifts, both in the ways that we are receiving federal funding, and in one case, one of our federal grants was canceled. We had a grant from the National Telecommunications and Information Administration for digital equity capacity. This was a sort of follow-up grant to the previous grant that we completed for digital equity planning. Digital equity is sort of an umbrella term that could incorporate everything from workforce development to digital skills training to helping people get access to broadband and the ability to, for example, have a telehealth appointment or apply for jobs, any of the myriad reasons why you might use the internet today. That grant was canceled, and we are continuing to move forward with digital equity, what we're also calling digital empowerment work, to the best of our ability without those funds. That was a grant that was on the smaller side for us. It was a $5.3 million grant over 5 years. So,
Had you spent any of the money?
Yeah, we spent around $215,000 of the money before it was canceled, and then a further about 20,000 that we were allowed to claim for closeout costs.
Okay, so no clawback, just
Correct.
return whatever you hadn't spent.
But that since April, when the news came through, or May, maybe May 8th. when
Yeah, it was canceled on May 9th.
We still haven't
Yeah.
heard back from about whether we're going to be getting that money or not.
You mean you haven't gotten the money you
We
spent?
haven't gotten the money. There was at first it was a 60-day period where to close out. Everything was due in September. In November, we were notified that there's some further information they wanted, which we submitted in November, and then that is where it stands at this time.
So it hasn't been denied, but it's been sort of just sitting there, and every couple of weeks, JB diligently sends a follow-up email to say, hey, about that payment request that
And
we sent.
it's being processed, or looked at.
Okay. Yeah. All right, continue, thank you.
Okay, no problem. And our major federal grant, also from the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, is our Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, or BEAD program. And that is really the grant program for building broadband infrastructure around the state. We have not lost any of the funding from that grant. However, we were subject to new policy requirements from the current administration. And that required us to, after we had completed almost completed a subgrantee selection process, to essentially go back out to bid and put out a new request for applications with some revisions. The major revision from the federal perspective was that they wanted us to make sure that we were being technology neutral in our approach, so that we were soliciting applications not just from fiber internet providers, but also from cable internet providers or hybrid fiber cable providers, wireless providers, and LEO, or low Earth orbiting satellite providers. So we did that.
Work over mountains and trees?
Well, we do have some questions about,
I would think that's, well, I mean, you know, some countries it works beautifully and because they don't have trees.
certainly it can be a barrier. So we have now completed that, second subgrantee selection process. And, we are waiting to hear back. We believe we will hear back soon from the NTIA on the final determination in that case.
So this is the $100 million one.
Yes.
After years.
228.9 million.
Okay.
Total. And that includes some funds that were dedicated to planning. So originally, our first grant under this program was 5 million. And our current grant award is for 228.9 million, inclusive of that original 5 million. And however, that will, include the subgrants that we're putting out to build infrastructure throughout Vermont.
So you did all the revisions and you sent
Yes.
it back and you're waiting to hear from the federal government on it. And how long have you been waiting? When did you send it back?
We have been waiting a few months. There's been some back and forth during that time. And I believe we're close to the end of that, a few more revisions and that back and forth.
Okay.
Should be completed soon.
Marty has a question.
I'm from the NEK area. Yes. And we have received maybe premature notice that that grant has been approved.
I don't believe I can speak about that until,
The official folks do.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go on.
Okay, and lastly, I wanted just to highlight that we did launch a new program under our ARPA Capital Projects Fund appropriation called the Affordable Long Drop Program. And this is a program that is allowing our communications union districts to fund the cost of what are known as non-standard or long drops to homes where the main fiber line will go past somebody's address, but their driveway might be too long or there might be some other barriers where the standard installation fee wouldn't actually cover the cost of getting fiber to that consumer's home. And in that case, typically the consumer would need to pay that extra cost. So this program directly funds those costs so that more consumers are able to get connected to broadband in their communities.
So on the satellite, what would you be actually providing boxes or whatever for downloading satellite signals?
Yeah, so for the satellite awards, many states are going to be awarding some of their funds to satellite providers. There are two major satellite providers in the country, Starlink and Amazon Kuiper, although I think Amazon Kuiper may have just changed its name to something else. And those grants will typically go toward covering all of the costs to the consumer of getting that satellite dish, any installation fees, providing in-person installation if needed, and so that the consumer would not have to pay any extra costs to get connected if they chose satellite service.
It's paid for the service once it's connected.
Correct. The next slide was focused on the BEAD program. We did talk a little bit about that. I just wanted to point out that on your printed version, there may be a typo. The allocation of these funds is 228.9 million. And that's out of the 42.5 billion federal program.
What page are you on?
I'm on slide 6, yeah.
Okay, is this where you had a question, John?
I can wait.
Okay.
228.9.
Yeah, so yeah. Yes.
It says 22.8.
Okay, I think that is where, that's there, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely not 22.8,
Yes, no, no,
it's
no.
228.9.
Big difference, yeah.
Big difference, yes.
Okay, so this is what we just talked about.
Yes.
So we're one of 14 waiting to hear from.
Yeah, and I do expect that we will hear soon.
Hopefully you'll all let us know.
Yes. Next slide is some summary of the Affordable Long Drop Program, which we've already talked a little bit about. And I'm going to move to slide 9. That shows a summary of our broadband pre-construction grants that have been awarded under Act 71 to date. At this point, we are going to be closing out some of those pre-construction grants because they are completed. And we are, all of these CUDs are active, and most of them are also already providing internet service to their communities. The next slide is our broadband construction program grants. These are funded both from ARPA, state and local fiscal recovery funds, and from capital projects funds. So we have awarded a total of $196 million in broadband construction grant programs. These will all be finishing up this year as those ARPA funds do expire at the end of the year. The next slide is just a summary of our current or over the past year contracts that we have engaged in to help us complete our work. And the next few slides really highlight a few different aspects of CUDs. On slide 13, you can see a map of our current communications union district, where their construction projects under their ARPA broadband construction grant funds are complete, where construction is ongoing. And this, of course, does represent our CUD landscape post-merger between CB Fiber and NEK Broadband, which is now NEK CB. And after that, we move on to the real budget part of this presentation, but I'll pause in case there are some additional questions.
Yeah, just real quick.
So when we met a while ago,
Yes.
to kind of
Mhm.
get a heads up on what might be coming along here. With a satellite installation, can you just remind us what the volume of that, what's that you're looking for to do in terms of volume of that? Is there a particular threshold here that they want to get to?
Yeah, I mean,
You have
that is a
some
good
indications,
question,
really?
and that's
Some places
Yeah.
are pretty good in Vermont for satellite.
Yeah.
Places are some-
overall, I would have to maybe look this up while JB is presenting for our current submitted final proposal to the BEAD program for what that percentage of locations that we are awarding to satellite is, because that has changed a little bit more recently. We have certainly asked the administration if they're looking for us to have a certain threshold, like reach a threshold. We have been told that that is not the case, that they're not looking for a certain percentage. What we have heard is that they were looking for us to bring down the total cost of infrastructure deployment. So that is where most of the discussions have taken place over the past
That's
few
the most
months.
recent
Yeah.
change. That's we.
Yes, and I don't want to go on the record with the actual percentage, but I can certainly find that.
Thank you.
Of course.
So starting on slide 15 here, we have the budget development form. We ask for special funds and federal funds. Special funds are our USF fund, Universal Service Fund. And the federal funds come from the grants that have been mentioned. You'll notice that there's a lot of ups and downs between the two.
Shifting over.
Yes, well, what happened in last spring, about a year ago, we did an overhaul of expenses that we had been charging to the USF that we determined could be charged to the specific grants that the work was being done on. So we shifted a lot of funds, personnel costs especially, to the federal source that the work had been being done on. We went back to the beginning of fiscal year 25, transferred a bunch of stuff over. So you will notice that it matches pretty close to taking from the special and adding to the federal. And the increases there are just the general increases on cost of benefits and things like that. We had some vacancy turnover savings in this fiscal year that really freed up a bunch of money as well. The second well, slide 16, I guess, not the second slide. This shows some of the operating expenses, which those, the amounts of those come to us from ADS and the HR. The increase in vision, ADS, IT help, fee for space, things like that. That's determined in advance and charged to us at the end of the year generally. Our fee for space actually went down because BCBB gave up their one actual office that they had on at 112 State Street. That was to help with the return to office for the departments that affected. It did not affect BCBB employees at this time.
So I'm finding this a little confusing.
Okay.
Looks like operating expenses went from 105 in special. Or no, those are both increases and then 700 in federal. So we have no idea what they were last year. So do you have all that information somewhere? So it went up by 805,000. Am I reading that right?
That's the total.
Is that the roll up?
Yeah, that's the total.
Below
That's the
it?
total.
Right. That's
We don't, okay, if it literally
Yeah,
is
it's the
rolling
other
up,
way
it's the other way around that we usually
Sometimes.
see it.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So if you see the federal funds, the only thing that's increased with the operating is indirect costs, which we hadn't been charging to the federal funds previously, and other contracts and third-party services, which we determined there was going to be a need now, with the BEAD funding being imminent, there was going to be a need for other third-party services to help us manage that. All of the other things like insurance, other than benefits, fee for space, general liability.
Not worried
Yeah,
about the rest of
yeah,
that.
that stuff goes to the USF funds.
Yeah. So does this free up money in the universal service?
It sure does. We have been very conservative in the spending of the USF and or trying to make sure that anything that can be charged to the federal funds gets charged there. And the USF has been very healthy and it is
Who's in charge of the USF? Is that about public service?
Service department, I think.
yes.
I know that the BCBB receives a percentage of that fund. I can't speak to,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you actually, Glenn, might know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is managed by Solix and they send it, I know the PSD, the part that I see, PSD was E911.
Mhm.
Gets the majority of the USF funds and then a smaller percentage comes to the BCBB.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think our efforts have been obviously focused on charging the federal grants wherever possible, because, that's why we have these federal grants, but also to, be conservative because of the risks of losing additional federal money, which we're not feeling very anxious about that at this point, but certainly want to be conservative.
The last slide for the budget development form basically shows, compared to last year in the USF, we're asking for $107,000, or we're expecting to be budgeting $707,000 less than
Right.
what we did in fiscal year 25. Excuse me, fiscal year 26. And $1.4 million more in federal funds. With the 40 million or the $43 million of grant funding expected that we are asking for spending authority on, basically. There's no general funds. And yeah, we think that was pretty conservative numbers. The next many slides,
We don't need to.
I would think they're there for your reference, but we don't need to go over those. Are there any questions?
So this is John. So John wants to look at all those details.
Well, there's many details there
Yes.
to look
I
at.
see Mike and then I see Wayne. Go ahead, yep.
Going back to your coverage numbers, is there a map we can look at to show that? And I mentioned because I live in I represent two towns who still woefully underserved, including large segments of towns who are relying just on copper lines to get dial-up, for just for email. And
Yeah, there's, we do have a, sort of our GIS hub website, that has the details for all of the addresses that have funding assigned to them. And I believe, some degree of timeline for when they're likely to receive service. I also, recommend, you can always call your local CUD with, questions about particular addresses, and they can share more details about the timeline. But I can share after we leave, the link to that website that has really all of the maps and details on the funding assigned.
I have been in contact with DB Fiber.
Oh, great.
And
Mhm.
we've been told they don't know.
Okay. Well, we can, and feel free to, Alyssa Matthews is our GIS maven and has, access to all of the details about specific locations and funding.
You also mentioned the Amazon satellite system. My understanding is there's a waiting list to get on now, but they're not active yet.
I believe that is what I am aware of as well. We did initially receive applications from Amazon for BEAD funding, and they withdrew their applications during our subgrantee selection process.
So if, I'm just wondering about a little policy. Is there going to be any mixings? For example, you've got fiber built out in an area, but it's either too costly or whatever, would you go to satellite in those instances, or you keep everything the same in a certain geographic area, say a county or whatever you're dealing with town?
Yeah, with our BEAD funding, each address that was eligible for funding under BEAD is going to be assigned funding, and that as part of a subaward to a provider that could be in our case, a fiber provider, hybrid fiber cable or satellite. So the location will only receive funding in one instance, but that certainly doesn't mean that another provider couldn't also offer that service, offer a different service.
So does the user decide which they want, or do you?
The user certainly decides if there's more than one type of service available, whichever service they prefer.
And we talked about some limitations with that too. Obviously, I've got like you shed sky and degrees, it's like it's gotta be anyways as well.
If Ms. Halpus was here, she could give you all the.
Yeah.
All the
Lots of
science.
details
all
and
the
the angles,
Yeah. it's a
yeah.
good time.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any more questions. We'll connect you to John, and we'll connect with John if we have more questions going forward. We thank you very much for coming in, and we look forward to hearing good news on this.
Yes, I believe you will hear good news soon.
Very soon.
Yes. The committee, we're going to take a break until 10:15 on the housing initiative.